We woke up, Luca was 2.5 months old. We woke up in the morning and we both looked at each other and said he never woke up for a bottle. And when we went over to the bassinet, he was chalk white and barely breathing. Roan ran him upstairs, got him in the shower, thinking maybe something was lodged, mucus, aspiration, anything. And when I laid him down on the bed after he got out of the shower, and he turned blue on me, so Roan had to perform CPR on him, and we called the ambulance. And when we called the ambulance, they took him right to GWV, and he was admitted into the trauma unit. They life-flighted him to Danville. When they intercepted him, they couldn't figure out what was wrong. They tried to intubate him numerous times, and they had a hard time getting the tube to go down and airflow to come back out when they were trying to get him to breathe.
It's very hard for me to talk about it. No parent should ever have to perform CPR on their own kid.
At this point, he was in respiratory failure, required being intubated, which took multiple attempts. And we know that the longer it takes to intubate someone and the longer a code goes, the more danger there is for there to be permanent damage, especially to the brain, because you're not getting oxygen. He had about a 40-minute downtime with his code, which is quite significant.
Roan actually went with him on the life flight, and I drove down with my sister-in-law. He was placed on a ventilator, and we spent 72 days in Danville just waiting. We didn't know what was going on.
There was never any real clear, answers in the very beginning. That was probably the worst part. When they close the doors on the ambulance and they have that clanking sound, I don't know if anybody's ever really heard the noise of a casket closing, and it was very, very similar, and I didn't like that, because I really thought I was going to lose my son.
Finally, after about 2 months, was seeming much better, and there were attempts to take his breathing tube out, and he just kept failing, and no one understood why. So he underwent a procedure to look inside his airway.
That's when we finally contacted dermatology. And when dermatology was contacted, he had 2 little red spots on him. And the red spots, we were like, what are those? Did we push blood vessels? What happened? Where did those come from? And when we consulted them, his ENT, Dr. Mock, was right on top of it on his case file and was like, I want to take him down right now, and I want to take him to the OR. He goes, I want to see something. He goes, I think I know what's wrong. So he took him down, and when he did, he scoped him. And that's when he found that Luca had a subglottic hemangioma in his airway. And that is a birthmark. And they're non-detectable. You don't even know that it's there. It just gets bigger until it completely cuts off the airway. And that explains why they couldn't get the ET tube down. They couldn't get him off the ventilator. They couldn't wean the settings because he couldn't breathe on his own.
Because of the hemangioma, he needed to receive a tracheostomy, or a breathing device in his neck that keeps his airway open, because there's always the danger of that hemangioma growing and completely blocking off his airway. Now at this point, he's so young, this is when he would be learning how to eat, how to talk. He wasn't able to do any of those things because of the tracheostomy. And that trach stayed in until just around his 3rd birthday. Thankfully, the hemangioma was able to be medically treated. There's medication that he was able to take that shrunk it, made it go away. There's been no recurrence. And after basically 2.5, 3 years, he had his trach removed. At this point, he is so active. He's a thriving little boy. He's all boy. You would never know that he had to kind of start learning how to do things at an older age. He just picked right up on everything. Also, with all that time that he was undergoing the code, there's always that risk for brain damage. He has no delays whatsoever. He is sharp as a tack. He is just into everything, lovable little boy. And I'm so happy that he's had such a great outcome.
There's not a day this kid's not smiling. He's never not happy.
To go through everything that he has and still have a smile on his face the whole time. And when I tell you, breaking through the paralytics and the sedation with a smile on his face, to have a smile on the whole time going through something like that, you know, that's everything right there. He's this life-filled kid that just wants to say hi to everybody and brighten everybody's day.